do you have any questions for me? There's more questions I'll ask you, but I just want to go back and forth, so it's not
Yeah,
just
sure,
one.
man. I mean, it's been a while since we've interacted. So I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem,
You know what
man.
I mean, dude. Like when you messaged me, I was like, yeah, of course, man. Like we go way back. I remember when I was the manager at the library bar. That
Right.
was when I first met you. You used to come in and you were doing your comedy thing, and what stands out for me around that time is that you know how there's local people doing their thing, and at the time my boss wanted to just have one
First
what
Friday.
yeah, just wanted to have one person, one comedian in charge of our nights there. But I had multiple people coming, and I was like, well, you know what, Iceberg, he's our man. He was the first one, so I had to fend off a couple of few other ones and made a couple of enemies because of that.
That's funny. I myself made some enemies. Um,
They're like, fuck the library. Then he already got his guy there. That's cool.
and it's funny you bring that up. That has been a conversation, and I think that's the other side of that conversation that I haven't been talking to people about.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people that Frank was talking to comedians and like saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this."
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it was and I say the name all the time, and I don't think he cares, but Boyston, he asked Boyston, he's all, Boyston, would you be interested in it?
Yeah.
And Boyston was like, on what day? He's like, yeah, First Fridays, man. I just want to do First Fridays. You,
Yeah.
you up for it? And then he's like, well, how about Saturday? And he's like, what? He's like, how about on a Saturday? He's like, no, I'm looking for First Friday. He's like, how about Sunday? He's like, no, I'm looking for First Friday. He's like, can you do this First Friday coming up? He's like, well, we can do it on the 15th because I
Yeah.
got to go out of town.
Yeah.
And so I think at that point, I think Frank was just like, what the fuck do you not get that I'm telling you First Friday? Like,
Yeah.
why are you giving me a date? I'm giving you the date.
Yeah.
Can
No
you do
shit,
it?
man.
So I started laughing, and then I think maybe you guys had that conversation later, and then me and Frank talked a little bit, and then we just had okay, we came to an agreement and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was my first taste of behind the scenes comedic world. I was like, oh shit, these guys don't play either.
it's a odd place, man,
Yeah.
to be in comedy here in Kern County. It's different. I mean, I haven't done the circuit in a lot of places. I'm familiar with people from like San Jose, Fresno, Vegas, other places. But as far as the circuits that I've gone, it's always been LA and here, and it's way different here because some of the things here are different in that. Um, okay. One thing that they got mad at me was about that place. So they were
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you took the spot from us," and I was like, "No, they we had a conversation. It was in both our best interest that we move forward, so we move forward."
Yeah.
I saw him give someone an opportunity who did not get it.
Mhm.
That he was being given an opportunity, and he
Yeah.
just threw that out the fucking window. But yeah, they became very like, you stole our spot and territorial and shit. I didn't really understand it, and I was
Me neither. I
kind of
didn't.
new to here.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like that.
It was just different. And I remember another time I got caught up in trouble was it wasn't, I don't think it wasn't the green room. It was called the library. And then I was talking to the lady who they were doing an open mic there.
Yeah.
And then it might have been the green. I can't remember anymore. But there was a green room, and this girl showed up. She killed it, bro. She
Mhm.
did 20 minutes straight, killed the fucking room. It was her first time doing comedy. Did great. Comedians were hating on her. They were calling her black. She was not black. They were like, "Why is she trying to act black?" And I was just like,
Damn, it's
I
like
was-
that, huh?
"Yeah, it was just hate, bro. Just hating on her hard." And later on, they got into like a fucking Twitter, fucking little thumb war and
Yeah.
shit. They were on Facebook, and they started messaging about like, and I asked them all, "Hey man, I like the scene to grow. I myself am trying to open another spot. I'm trying to do some shows,
Yeah.
and I really think that we should all be working together. We shouldn't be chewing each other out."
Absolutely.
And we have a new comedian who did well, and instead of welcoming her, you guys shit on her.
Mhm.
And later on, they all started doing business with her because she could sell tickets. So that was the fucked up part. They started talking shit about her, and when they saw she could sell tickets,
Mhm.
they all started kissing her ass and being nice to her. And I was like, that's fucked up. But I caught some heat with that because the dude was like, hey, you know, she must be sucking you off, and I was like, no, man, like, why do you have to, like, why are you taking the conversation there, bro? Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about just the scene and trying to grow it, and how we should respect new comedians as they come in and
Straight up.
welcome them. And especially if they're females. It's kind of, I think it's when you criticize a female, it kind of weighs a little bit heavier. Um, especially if you're an experienced comedian, because you
Yeah.
can talk some mad shit to somebody, make them feel bad. And shit.
It looks bad though too. I mean, you're a grown ass man talking about the new girl on the mic. I mean, come on.
And so I think the guy said something, like, yeah, you must be doing something, messing with her. And I was like, well, whatever, bro. And so I was like, just chill, blah blah. And then he said, I can't remember the exact wording he used, but he pretty much said like, go fuck yourself or something, fucking you white knight, some shit. And I was like, you know what, man, you talk to me like this here, but I want to see you talk to me like that. Come, the open mic.
I would have been like, you got the white right because they do call me Iceberg.
and so he goes something about, I'll say it to your face. I was like, all right then, well, I'll see you when I see you. Give me the time and the place. We'll take care of it. And so it was a threat, but it wasn't a threat of violence. It was more a threat of like, if you're gonna call me out, then I'm here, bro.
Yeah.
And you tell me where to go.
Well, brother.
Well, after that they banned me from the mics. I got banned because they said I was threatening the comedians and shit. And I was just like, nah, man, I was calling out someone who was calling me out and being rude. And so they just jumped on the opportunity to get rid of me. But the crazy part is that they act like that's not normal. But if you go to LA,
yeah,
these dudes are fighting each other. Bobby Lee has been drop kicked in the Comedy Store I don't know how many fucking times,
dude,
by other comedians.
It's wild out there, huh?
Well, yeah. It's just different. It's just different. I think there's just so many people out there that they just don't care. It's just like, whatever. We can't handle all these fucking fights and all these things. And so here's like,
totally
bro,
get it.
How are we ever gonna grow if you just keep being like petty? Even recently, I quit my job, and so I was like, I'm gonna get back into comedy. I'm gonna start doing comedy, make some side business.
You're due, bro.
And so I came back. I went to, obviously I have no choice. I got to go to one of these open mics. And so I went to McMahon's, and I went and talked to the dude, and I was like, hey man, like, I want to sign up for the open mic. Is it cool? And he goes, yeah, let me talk to you. So we go to the back, and I'm gonna part cut this out, but we go to the back, and he took me to a specific room. He didn't go like, hey, let me talk to the office, or hey, we're here in the front. Let's go further in the front, the parking lot, and talk. He took me to a specific room. I'm assuming it was recorded. And so he's like, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, and you disappeared, so I wasn't able to tell you that it's all cool, and you're not banned from this place. Like, you're more than welcome to come back. And I was like, okay. And you have to tell yourself, like, do I need to be right, or do I just need to get what I want?
Yeah.
And which is, I just want the mic back.
Yeah.
And so if I get the mic back, then whatever. You want to say that's all my fault, you want to say, oh, fine, whatever. I get the mic. But I was sitting there listening to this guy, and I was like, this guy must be recording me, because the way he's telling the story makes no sense. Because, he's saying that I stopped showing up, and that I kind of told everybody to go fuck themselves, and I blocked everybody. I was like, well, yeah, I did tell everybody to go fuck themselves, and I did block everybody because I wasn't given a chance to, say my side of the story of like the problems I was having with one dude was like saying, it's a long story, but he had I went to his house, right? I'll cut this out. But I went to his house, and then it was bad, bro. Roaches.
Oh man.
Like, not roaches like, oh, he saw one over there. They were like chilling roaches. Like, like they had territory there.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until some guy had brought some chips. He handed me the bag of chips. I grabbed some chips, and I go to put it on the table. He snatches it off the table, and he's like, don't put food down. And I was like, what? He's like, we got roaches. We'll look around. And that's when I started looking. I see roaches going under the microwave and shit. And I was like, oh shit. He's like, yeah, that's why we're standing. I was wondering why we're all standing up in the living room,
God damn.
And so he was like, they were like, yeah, man, his house is pretty messy, man. And I was like, oh shit. And so it was cool at first, but then I saw his wife come out, and his kid came out, and I was just like, man, people shouldn't live. And then I was working in social work at that time, so I was just kind of like, oh man, what can I do for this guy?
Yeah.
So, I think we're outside. I was getting ready to leave because I couldn't really be there, and so I was like, hey,
your inner social worker was kicking in when you're off the clock.
I wasn't a social worker at the time. I was actually an assistant. At that
for
time.
real?
But I had an understanding of some basic stuff, right? And so I was kind of like, I don't feel comfortable how it looks. I knew it wasn't nothing to report or anything like that would cause any kind of problems and stuff. So in my mind, I was like, okay, like, one, because the child was old enough to like not like be on the ground or be eating off the ground. It's there's a fine line, But anyways, it didn't meet the criteria of like any kind of like child abuse or anything.
Gotcha.
Like that. So I knew that all they would do ever is like say, hey, can we help you clean your house? So I was like, well, instead of having some random government official or nonprofit come over to this guy's house, how about I volunteer to clean his house? So I bought a bunch of sponges,
Right on.
a bunch of bags and shit. And so I saw him at the mic probably like a week later, and I was like, "Hey man, I want to talk to you about." And he's like, "Yeah, man, um, about the roaches, bro. Like, they're from my neighbor's house." I was like, "All right." He's like, "Yeah, man, they're fucking wetbacks and shit, and they're fucking, they're fucking immigrants." And I was just like, "Whoa, this is not going how I was expecting it to go."
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, "Hey, man." So I just cut him off. I was just like, "Hey, bro, like, um, I just wanted to ask you if it'd be cool if I come over to your house and help you clean it."
Yeah.
He's like, "You would do that?" I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, I see that your situation. I ain't got to know nothing about it. Just just know that I'll help you, and I'll keep it to myself. I'm not gonna tell nobody about it."
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm talking about it, and then so I was like, "All right." He's like, "All right, yeah, that's cool, man. I appreciate that, man." And I was like, "No problem, man." And again, like, I'm not gonna tell nobody, bro. He's like, "All right, cool."
We're not gonna tell nobody until we start this podcast.
Until I start this podcast. And so I've talked about it before. Because it goes south after that, and so he takes like 10 steps. Like, let's go back inside, bro. And so he's like, "All right." So we start walking. He takes 10 steps and he stops and he goes, "Are you gonna call CPS on me?"
What the fuck?
And I was like, "No, it's quite the opposite, man. I'm offering to help you clean your house."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "And if I don't, are you gonna call CPS on me?" And I was like, "Hey, bro, let's not go down that route. Like you're bugging out. You're bugging out, bro. Like, I'm telling you that I'm gonna help you, and I just want to help you, and that's it, bro." And then he's like, "You're an informant, huh? You're a spy or some shit." And I was like, "Oh wow, this is not going well." So I was like already like, I need to walk away because he's a little off. The guy's off. I've seen him do comedy, obviously, and he's a little off, but harmless. But
people are just
off.
not used to help, bro. It's crazy.
So he starts threatening me. He starts saying that he's gonna have the people doing the shows at the green room, and that he's gonna have them all deported. I was like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" Like. So yeah, he just goes off, bro. He starts talking about he's gonna hack my computer, and I was just like, "Man, there goes all my porn and shit. Like, what the fuck?" Now I gotta put tape over my camera when I watch my videos.
There goes all that shit.
And so I'm just like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" And so then he starts sending all the people that I was like threatening him, and this and that. So then that's what goes south. I get banned from all the stuff, and everybody's saying that like. Called CPS on him and all this shit. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I go to talk to the owner guy from the well. He owns the well now. He's the guy who banned me from from the mics. And so I go to the rocket shop, and he goes, "Hey, I want to talk to you." I was like, all right. So we go talk. This time he doesn't take me to a random spot. He takes me like outside the door, and he's like, "Hey, I heard this was going on between you guys and this and that. And so, I think, I can't have that. You can't be, I've had reports of you, threatening multiple comedians."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean by threat?" He's like, "I don't know. I just know that you threatened him." I was like, "Well, I mean, was it self-defense? Was it me, saying something back to someone who threatened me?" I was like, "Because if you're talking about this incident, that person called me out. And so I told him, give me a time and a place. Easy as that. Like, I just responded. And I've seen him since. I haven't touched him. I haven't threatened him. I haven't given him a bad eye. I say hi. I shake his hand. I move forward, I know that he's a bitch. I ain't got to fucking prove it to nobody, Because I've had several of those comedians where we had nights where, sometimes we rag on each other.
Yeah.
And it happens. I've gotten ragged on pretty hard sometimes. I'm like, oh, you got me. I'll get him back.
You got me.
I'll get you back. And so,
that's got to be tough in the comedic world.
Sometimes they whatever it could be. It could be something you're wearing, something you said, you're sad, whatever. You just dig into your fucking, or you bomb, you do horrible, and the next person goes up and they're like, "Well, okay, let's just move on." And so, something kind of like, that kind of hurt. It was subtle, but it hurt. And so I'm talking to him, and I'm like, no, that's the situation. And I was like, what about him, threatening to deport my fucking workers and like the people I'm booking, and like saying that he's gonna hack my computer? Like, do you have any issues with that? He's like, well, I don't know anything about that. I was like, it seems like you don't know anything, and you're just jumping on the opportunity to kick me out. So
Sounds like it.
So when I was sitting there at that office, and he was like telling me how he hadn't banned me, that I kind of banned myself, and that he'd been trying for it's been like 3 years. He was trying for the longest time to let me know that he did not ban me, and that everything was perfectly fine, that he and the other guys had talked about it, and that it was perfectly welcome, but he just didn't have a way of getting a hold of me because I blocked him on Facebook. And so I'm sitting there listening to this guy, and I'm like, this guy's so full of shit. I can't help but think that he's recording this conversation, hoping that I try to like push the fuck you fool, you don't, So I was just like, so I can get on the mic. Yeah. Hey man, we'll have a good day.
Well, sometimes you gotta let them talk to find out how full of shit they really are. And the other piece of that is that if they ain't talking about you, Iceberg, then you're not doing something right. You know what I mean? It's
Definitely.
crazy out there. Yeah.
I had a comedian guy who helped me a lot in kind of navigating the shittiness of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes through their own actions, sometimes, and sometimes just from heads up about other people. You know, just
Straight up.
depending on the situation. And he said the same thing. He goes, you know, I came to this town and I didn't know anybody. I moved here because of his family situation. You know, his wife had a job out here and he was a comedian. He traveled, so he's like, who gives a fuck where I live? So he moved out here. We talked for a while and then we got to know each other. And that's one of the things he told me. He's like, you know, one thing I noticed about you is when I got here, how much shit everybody talks about you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He's all, but then I met you, and then you're on top of your shit. You're doing your own shit. You're not. He's all. There's a reason they were talking about you, and they were fucking hating on you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
That's how it goes.
I was like, okay.
Well.
I would rather they just got along with me.
Same, bro. It's everywhere. You know, can you imagine the festival that you guys would have if you guys all got along? It'd be huge, bro. Ticket sales through the roof. Everybody doing a set. It'd be dope.